I wanted to come on this morning to just share a journal entry that I wrote last night. And for months and months now, I've been writing and journaling pretty heavily. And not everything I write belongs to me necessarily. Um, it's just things that come to me as I'm writing. And I thought, why not just start sharing some of it because it might belong or help someone else. Um, so, yeah, I just thought I would start sharing some of my journal entries here. And this particular entry I titled The Year of No Thank You and Unsubscribing. And the reason I titled it that was because I heard a quote from Miles Monroe, and he said that not every opportunity is an opportunity, but it could be a distraction because it doesn't bring you closer to your dreams. And I thought that was so true because not everything that appears to look good is actually good for you, right? And it could be something simple as your favorite store has a sale, and instead you know you should be working on budgeting, but you choose to go to the store and go crazy, and then you have that buyer's remorse. Or it could be something more important, like choosing a spouse for superficial reasons as opposed to, really trying to discern someone's character. Not everything that appears to look good is actually good for you. Um, so yeah, the year of no thank you and unsubscribing. If I keep looking down, it's because I'm literally going to read line by line from what I had written here. It's just too much to sort of remember off the top of my head, and I'll try to make it as short as possible. So just bear with me. So, this is the year of saying no thank you to wasting my time, to not planning better or planning at all. No thank you to people wasting my time because it is priceless and I can't get it back. And it's so true because only God can like redeem your time. So yeah, it's so important. No thank you to staying in the comfort zone and not trying something new to push me closer to my dreams. No thanks to being paralyzed by fear because I don't know what will happen. No thank you to going up for that nightcap with that man or woman and allowing lust to lead. No thanks to following the crowd and not trying to become myself and original. No thank you to living and being everything to everyone else but abandoning myself in the process. No thank you to not making a commitment to care about myself, mind, body, and soul. No thanks to staying in pain and crying every day and choosing to not start healing, which brings about crying for a whole different reason. No thank you to caring about what others say and think about me. No thanks to abandoning God and his promises for my life. No thank you to going to entertain people and going to functions that drain my energy but never pour. No thanks to being a fraction of myself instead of choosing wholeness. No thank you to sleeping with every person I date because I think that they're a king or a queen and really it's just casual. No thank you to not taking steps to build my character and trust God more. No thanks to allowing my need to want to control everything keep me from having peace and rest in the Lord. No thanks to not managing my resources in all aspects: time, money, energy, and relationships. This is the year of saying no thank you to distractions. No thanks to not becoming and learning how to become a better parent or being absent from my child or children. This is the year of not being selfish and start making sacrifices, no matter how big or small they may be. This is the year of allowing myself to be excused from things that don't speak to my soul and nourish my mind. Just as a kid, as I had wrote that line, this is the year of being excused from things that don't speak to my soul or nourish me. When I wrote that line, I thought about like that child at the dinner table that would, they're done eating or they're not interested in the conversation, so they ask to be excused, so it's like giving yourself permission to be excused from something that's no longer benefiting you, that doesn't move you forward, that doesn't help you, excusing yourself from that thing, whatever it is. That's what I thought about when I wrote that. Let this be the year that you sit at your own table, get around some different energy, positive, uplifting people, creative minds ready to help the world and shine their light also. Let this be the year of no thank you to old belief patterns, thoughts, and welcoming newness into your life. No thank you to worry and anxiety that keep me from making better choices. No thanks to only praying for what I want in my circumstances, but learning how to pray for others. No thank you to being so self-consumed and selfish that I don't give to other people. And the next line I wrote here, it says, no thanks to not extending my hand to someone with whatever little or much may be in it, but constantly seeking God's hand. And when I wrote that, it brought me to, sometimes we can get so caught up in our own lives and, focusing on our own situation so heavily that we tend to, and we're praying for our own situations, our own circumstances, and to see movement in our own lives. And there's other people who also need help and things like that. So it brought me to like an encounter I had a couple of days ago, and I'll just share really quickly. So I went to the gas station and I had pulled up to the pump. In my direct line of vision, I could see there was a man. He was sitting on the ground in front of the gas station there. And I wasn't studying him necessarily, but I was just observing him, and just watched how people just kept walking past him and how he would just look up at them, but he wasn't saying anything. He wasn't asking for anything. And I just sort of looked at him, and I got done pumping my gas and I said, I'm going to go over here to this man and just, ask him if he wants to get something from the store, And so that's what I did. And when we came out of the store, he wasn't a super chatty man, he really didn't say too many words, but it was the look in his eyes, and he gave me this nod and this smile just of appreciation. And I started to think along the lines of like, how many people walk around the world and on the outside they appear to be fine and that they have it together, but on the inside they're internally screaming because they actually do need help, but they don't know how to ask for it. They might not know where to go to get help. This might be the first time they've needed help. They might feel ashamed to ask for help, and so that's what I had thought about, as I was observing him, and he wasn't asking anybody for anything, but I just had that nudging and that prompting to want to offer him something. And I also feel like, if you're someone and you come across someone, a stranger, maybe somebody you do know, but if there's an internal prompting for you to do something for someone, maybe really follow that, because you never really know, the person next to you or who you encounter on a daily basis. You never know someone's struggle or if they might be at the end of their rope, or you just never know what people are dealing with internally, mentally, financially. And so people really do need help oftentimes, and they just don't ask, and they don't appear on the outside to look like it. So yeah, and that's what I had thought about when I had wrote extending my hand to someone. With whatever little you have, or a lot, whatever you feel the need to want to help or give to someone in whatever way you can. It might just be your time, to listen to someone. It doesn't have to be money or anything, but, or it could, just that person at the grocery store in front of you may have forgotten their wallet, or they might be short a couple of dollars, but you actually have way more than enough to help. Maybe consider helping. So it's just extending my hand, and not always searching for God's hand to help me. So that's what I had thought about when I wrote that. And I'll continue on here. So, let me just pause for a second. Along the lines of extending my hand, and as I was watching him also, yeah, it brought me to a passage in this book. So this book, I've been reading it. It's very rich, and I'm probably going to reread it when I'm done. But it's The Body Keeps the Score, and it's by Bessel van der Kolk. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it just talks about, trauma and healing, and how your body processes that, and keeps a record of that, and how the brain works. And it's so rich with information. But as it relates to the whole encounter I had at the gas station with this individual, I'll just read here just a quick little passage, but it really struck with me. So it talks about breaking the silence, and it talks about how the silence about trauma leads to death, the death of your soul. And it says, silence reinforces the God-forsaken isolation of trauma. Being able to say out loud to another human being, I was raped, or I was battered by my husband, or my parents called it discipline, but it was really abuse, or I'm not making it since I got back from Iraq, is a sign that healing can begin. And as I had said, when I had looked at the man, he didn't ask a single person for anything, but it was in his eyes and the way he looked up at people as they just kept walking past him, and he was silent, but he really did want something. He really did want something. He just couldn't say it, and there are people out here who really do need help, but they don't say it. They are just suffering in silence, so that's what I thought about. And then further along, it says here that we may think we can control our grief, our terror, and our shame by remaining silent, but naming offers the possibility of a different kind of control. When Adam was first put in charge of the animal kingdom in the book of Genesis, his first act was to give a name to every living creature. And I thought that was so powerful because, I am reading through the Bible now, and it's just the acknowledgement, to speak and acknowledge, to say, yes, I need help. No, I'm not doing okay. To actually say that and admit that and acknowledge it, it's a sign that you've started to take ownership of recognizing, like, okay, something's not right here. I can't do this by myself, or I need help in this area, so it's that acknowledging of things. And I really like that. And it was also a different perspective also of the way to look at that point in scripture. I think a lot of people, this was more of a cerebral approach to it, to look at it this way. But a lot of people, as they read the scripture, this point in scripture, they tend to think about it in terms of, creation. What Adam named something, that's what it was. If he called it a particular insect, that's what it was, you know. And also, they, as it relates to Eve, you know, when he saw her, he says, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. So it's like what he called a thing, that's what it was. But it's like the same thing can go processing mentally, also, because it's like if you don't acknowledge something and call it for what it actually is, then you can't deal with it and process it. So I actually like that whole little point here in the book. Yeah, so as I'm reading through this, it's a good read. I think I'll actually share some more of this, but it really connected with my whole encounter at the gas station. So I just thought I would say that. As I continue on here. So, what are you saying no thank you to this year? And what are you choosing to opt out of this year? And I also wrote, this is the year of saying no thank you to feeling like I need to identify with society's standard of beauty and getting caught up in the spirit of comparison. No thanks to feeling like I don't have hope and getting closer to giving in to the spirit of suicide. No thanks to feeling like I need to pretend to be anything other than myself and trusting God to bring the right people in my life. No thanks to fake happiness, but choosing to embrace true authenticity and experiencing joy, peace, and unconditional love. No thanks to wasting my time, wasting my gifts, not seeking purpose, and sleeping on myself. And lastly, no thanks to feeling like I need to fit in or conform when I am different on purpose for a purpose. So that was this particular entry. And so it's like, you know, some of these things belong to me, some of them don't. But, you know, everybody has their things. So what's your thing that you want to say no thank you to this year or opt out of? You know, it could be a relationship or a person or a belief or a habit. It could be anything. So, you know, what's your thing? Maybe make a list if that'll help. So I think what I'll do is just come on and just start sharing some of my entries here. Maybe not all of them, but some of them as I'm kind of going through my journey here, healing and learning and understanding and reading, and you know, so I think I'll just share more. But yeah, opting out of things that don't benefit me and saying no thank you. So what's your thing? And thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys on the next video.